Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to have the Sullivan family. That would be Harold and Mildred Sullivan's family and their nephew, Jim Sullivan, whose father was George, joining us today for our first family recording from St. Joan of Arc. We're going to ask them a few fun questions and have them reminisce a little bit about their time while going to school and living in St. Joan of Arc's parish. So let us begin. Maybe we just want to run through real quick and introduce yourselves and what order you were in the family of the Sullivans of 12.
Shawn Sullivan, number 10.
We're going out of order. I'm Sharon. I'm the second oldest. My sister Millie is not able to be on today.
Who's next?
I'm Julie. I'm number 11.
Oh,
Paul, you're on.
Mary, number 6.
I'm Beth, number 7.
Nice job.
Theresa, number 8, but the three of us are known by
Mary.
Beth.
Theresa.
do we have everybody?
And Paul.
Yeah.
Paul.
Well, this is Jim Sullivan. Mildred was my godmother, so I could probably be the 13th kid. Oh.
And Paul, what number were you, Paul? Paul, you're muted still.
Paul's number 9.
You just press the space bar and you go off mute, bud.
There we go. It's kind of confusing sometimes during these Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Paul's number, would you say he was number
9?
9? He's number
9.
Well, that's a pretty good
Number 9.
There you go. Yay, we got the mute up. So we have
I needed some consulting there.
so of the 12, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So we have half.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good representation. So would someone just share with us how Harold and Millie got into St. Joan of Arc Parish? How they moved here?
So I think I'm the second oldest, and I'm pretty sure mom and dad moved into St. Joan of Arc like right before I was born or right after I was born. And my cousin Jim, his mom and dad lived in the same parish. They lived on Avers, and we were on Ridgeway to start with before we moved to Lawndale, which I think almost everybody in St. Joan of Arc knows where our house is because it was always chaotic. But before I tell you why they picked St. Joan of Arc, I'm going to turn it over to my sister Julie because she wrote a little book about words of wisdoms for when she interviewed my mom, and it tells their history, so she can give it. I'm going to turn it over to her right now. So Julie, if you want to tell that story about their background and why you think they chose St. Joan of Arc.
Sure. Yeah, so like Sharon said, I wrote this book, but really I just interviewed my mom. When I had my first baby, she came and stayed with me for a week, and I just spent the whole week interviewing her to get her advice on parenting, really. And then I turned it into this book. So most of this is just really her words, but throughout the whole book, it really screams out how much St. Joan of Arc and that neighborhood was her life. She was like the social worker of St. Joan of Arc. I mean, she talks in here about sitting with Principal Marge Lynch for hours on her couch, talking to her about issues she was having, or a coach that was struggling with some of the parents, that she would spend hours talking to the coach and encouraging parents to support teachers. That was her big thing. She was always upset at how parents would judge teachers as opposed to supporting them. And I think all of us kids could say that she definitely put it on us to learn to deal with different personalities and different teachers. And her values all came out through there. I'm going to read one part of the book that I wrote about just how much being a neighbor for all. And I'm sure that's what drew her to St. Joan of Arc, is that whole neighborhood feeling where you see your neighbors every Sunday in church, your kids are in school with your neighbors, and you just really get this sense of community. In the book that I wrote, Mildred was a huge believer in being a participating member of her community and passed this belief on to all her children. St. Joan of Arc was where we all went, and it was a community for her. Everyone there seemed to know Mildred Sullivan. She was always very involved in the parish, in the school, or volunteering us kids for the parish. Like a modern day social worker, she stayed with it well into her 80s. Dad spent many Sunday afternoons waiting in the back of the church while she found out what was going on with everyone in the parish. At Christmas, she organized gifts for the needy. A friend, Nancy Moynihan, said, "Every year I got that call from your mom. We need someone to adopt this family. Can you do it?" So it's a great example of it. It was just more St. Joan of Arc gave her the container in which she could thrive and do what she did best.
That's beautiful. That's such your mom. I can see her today and I just know that she was always involved and so giving to our parish and to our school, as your dad was too, but I mean, moms are there always, so beautiful.
Right.
So you guys lived on Lawndale, the 9400 block of Lawndale, and George, where'd you go? There you are, George. Or sorry, George, Jim, your father, George, where did you grow up?
Well, after I was born in 55, we moved in the summer.
I'm sorry, Jim, say that
Oh,
again.
sorry. There's a little background coming from somewhere, but we moved in 1955 to Avers, 9512 Avers. And well, I was talking to Sharon last week, and we realized that when Sharon and I were in 6th grade, there were 12 Sullivans in St. Joan of Arc. 6 from my family and 6 from her family. So that's a really unusual thing. I don't know where else you would have had something like that.
Wow.
But we loved the neighborhood. I could go up and down every street and tell you where people lived and all the characters and all the funny people and all the friends. And Jim Shelley and I, we went through it all from kindergarten to 8th grade. At the beginning of 8th grade, we moved to Sacred Heart Parish in Winnetka, and I begged my parents to let me finish at St. Joan. So I did. And my dad would drop me off in the morning and I would find some way to get home at night. I probably asked Mr. Shelley to drive me home a few times. I would hang out at the Wolf's house, at the Corcorans, at the Polacheks, at Kerrigan's. And I really got to know people even more by being, it was really special that I was allowed to go back to St. Joan of Arc. I just loved the place. And I told my parents, well, I have to go back because they need me on the football team. Well, we would have lost every game anyway without me. So they didn't need me there to lose all the games. No, actually, if Fred Polachek wasn't hurt, we might have won some games. But anyway, that's kind of my contribution. I'll let someone else talk. Thanks.
That's pretty cool. So your dad and Harold were brothers.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's pretty cool. So then.
Now excuse me, Joan, they both went to Loyola Academy, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just getting some heritage in there as far as what the lineage is.
Right.
Sorry, Joan.
No, it's great, Jim. By the way, that's Jim Shelley over there in the corner. Everybody knows Jim Shelley. He's helping with the Alumni Association, which is awesome. I love it. Let's go into the time when you guys started going actually to St. Joan of Arc School. If you can kind of give us like who was the priest at that time, the principal, I don't think the addition was added yet. At that point, it was still just the regular first part of the school, correct?
Oh my gosh, you're testing
Depends
our
on which
memories.
child you're talking to.
Well, someone just jump in and tell me what their experience was. I'd love to
And the
hear.
kindergarten, nice kindergarten was there for me.
Well, one of my experience was having the altar boy. It seemed like every day of the week, because if you put a Sullivan's name in the bulletin to offer to altar boy, Mildred would make us go, and normally altar boys didn't show up. So Paul and I basically altar boyed 5 days a week.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that include altar boy at the 7 o'clock mass, which is Monday through Friday. And Father McMahon was very, very gracious to know that we'd be there, because it's tough to get people.
And Paul could lip sync the sermon every day behind Father McMahon.
Unbelievable. That's a big commitment to get out of bed every morning to do mass.
My dear and faithful friends, I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, my goodness. That's cool. What was it like for you, Sister Theresa?
You know, when I first read that question is like, how did the school make you who you are? I'm like, well, St. Joan of Arc wasn't anything special. Sorry, Joellen. It wasn't anything special. And I think that would have been my answer when I left St. Joan of Arc. And part of that answer is because I kind of thought everybody grew up in a family that loved them, and they lived on a block. When you walked down the road, everybody knew your name, and that you had mass and that you had school. So it was really this community that was just a part of your fabric of your life. It's like, I breathe in air, and it's like, it's no big deal because that air should be with me for every breath I take. And yet without that air, I have no oxygen. I have nothing. And so I really think that St. Joan of Arc was just an extension of our family. And whether it be the school or the parish or the block leading back and forth, you know, it said, they always say it takes a city village to raise a child. And people give mom and dad a lot of credit for raising the 12 of us, but let's face it, you know, I mean, the St. Joan of Arc community neighborhood raised us, and it was all of us together. And I guess it started becoming more and more clear after I became a sister, and I would come home and I'd go to daily mass, and Mrs. Breedman would be like, how's it going for you, Theresa? How's it going for you? And then Mrs. Schufrider and it's like, so I think I spent more than 8 years at St. Joan of Arc, because whenever I came home to that parish, it was home. And it wasn't just the school I went to or the parish I worshiped at, but there were people there that were actually interested. When I started running St. Joe services and we needed a place for a fundraiser, the Breedmans, oh sure, you can do it at the Lexus place, no problem. And all of Joan of Arc gave us all the supplies that we needed for everything. And so I still haven't graduated from Joan of Arc because they're still supporting me in different ways. And so I just think when you talk about a community that embraces you, informs you so much in who you are that you don't really know, that's what Joan of Arc was for me and still is.
That's beautifully said. Well, that's very nicely said. Let's go through, if you don't mind, just if you each would touch base on some of your memories or just your impact that the neighborhood, the parish, the school had on your life. So Sharon, do you want to start with that?
Well, I have some pictures, I think, that speak loud. Can you screen share?
Oh,
You
yay.
see the picture? Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to, just to follow up with Theresa here.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
this is after my dad died. And this is a picture taken in St. Joan of Arc. And these are friends these are friends of my parents. And they all had kids that were in our grades. Like they're the Breedemans, there are Breedemans in all our grades. There's the Schufriders, there were Schufriders in all our grades. There's the O'Grady's, there were O'Grady's in all our grades, and the Moynahans. And they were all in all our grades, okay? And when I looked at this picture, this describes St. Joan of Arc to me. As Theresa just described, everybody who was in that parish was supportive of us. I felt like everybody, they knew who you were and they tried to support you and help you. And the same thing was true of my mom. Like she really cared as much about other people's kids as she did about us. And she would really be upset when other parents complained about teachers, because she was like, no, the teachers are right. They have a hard job. You have to support the teachers. I mean, and trust me, plenty of us gave teachers a hell of a time, but she still felt that the teachers were right and we had to support the teachers. And, Julie tells a cute story in here about some teachers coming over and talking to her and her trying to negotiate with the parents for the kids to sort of be more respectful and support. But this picture to me epitomizes what St. Joan of Arc is. And now let me see if I'm savvy enough to pull up another picture. Okay.
Sharon, while you're talking on that one, I just want to say in later years, when we would stay over at the house and I would bring mom to church on Sunday, every one of those people you know, my mom's friends from years ago were at the same mass, and they all had their little place that they sat in. And I go in, I'm like, oh my God, there's the Shoe Fighters, there's the O'Grady's. And then they all talked afterwards. It was very cute. And that was 30, 40 years later.
Hey,
Yeah,
Sharon,
I'm up
I'm
for
gonna,
something in
I'm
mass.
gonna jump in here for a second. This picture brings tears to my eyes every time I look at it, of joy. All those years going up and down those stairs at St. Joan of Arc, I never noticed that there were the 3 entrances, the 3 arches, until they took this picture at my parents' 50th wedding anniversary with what happened from St. Joan of Arc. And it takes my breath away to think of mom and dad and what life meant to them, to have this picture with the Father, Son, Holy Spirit in front of the church and all that grace and blessings. And it's a view of St. John's that I had never appreciated before this picture. And Jim's, your sister Laura took it, I think.
Yeah.
So this picture is mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary. And whenever we had any type of family celebration, there always had to be a mass involved. And we always had to be mindful of, you know, how fortunate we were, and everything good comes from God, and everything good in mom and dad's life came from St. Joan of Arc. And this tells you, this describes their life to me, you know. And 3 of the grandchildren are missing because they weren't born yet, but other than that, everybody else is in there. And, you know, I think that really describes what it meant to them. Okay, I have some other pictures, and then I'm going to turn it over to somebody else. But since I'm doing this, okay, this is one of my favorite pictures. This is first day of school when we were living on Lawndale. This is our house on Lawndale. This is Millie. That's Hal. That's Beth. That's me. This is Linda
Laura
Mancuso. This is my sister Eunice with her big briefcase.
Oh, I didn't realize Peter had one too.
The future accountant, tax accountant. And here's Peter with his big briefcase. And then
you forgot Mary. Don't forget
Mary. Oh no, Mary, no briefcase. And then this is Mrs. Mancuso, and that's Theresa over here wishing she could go to school. But everybody had to pass by our house on Lawndale to go to school. I don't know who this is. Does anybody know who that is? And it looks like that's her mom.
It's one of the Quinns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Marguerite, it's Marguerite.
Marguerite Quinn. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh my God, that's hysterical. I got to send that to Marguerite.
Hey, Beth, I think that's Elsa standing next to Mrs. Mancuso.
Who is it?
Their housekeeper.
Oh, but
they like Beth.
It's not Anna Mae, is it?
No, I think it's Elsa. I think Mary's right. It's for the
Oh, okay.
Mancuso's. Yeah. Okay. And then just one final picture.
Her name is Alma, A-L-M-A.
Theresa, this picture. Oops.
Yeah, so we always thought that dad was the man in mom's life. Have to go back, but these were the men that picked up mom when mom could no longer get to mass after dad passed away. These guys would pick up mom every day for mass.
God Squad.
The God Squad.
Yeah, they're wonderful men. Wonderful.
Yeah, and so talk about the St. Joan of Arc community. They came and picked her up and knew that was meaningful to her.
Mhm.
So anyhow, since I just thought these pictures are great, but I'll turn it back to
That's
my
wonderful.
siblings here.
I do have a question
Every day
for
they
you.
would pick her up for mass, and like she'd have her walker. So, you know, she'd get in the car, and then they get in the car, and they get to mass, and no, you gotta talk to everybody before you leave. So then they had to wait to be the last person to leave the church and take her home.
She's a very
Now-
social lady.
I do have a question. I went to several of them myself, but how long did the evening prayer meetings go on? When did they start and how long did they go on for? Okay, don't all look at me like I'm crazy. Do you remember the Bible sessions, reading the Bible? Maybe it was once a week or twice a week in the evening.
They did that in the evening, but then they also did it, they started a Saturday after mass. Just to let you know, one of the times when I was going to graduate school, I was at Northwestern, I'd stayed over at my mom's house, and it was after mass, 7 a.m. mass. It wasn't Saturday in the morning, and they always had this Bible study. And so mom
Right.
she said to the group, I can't come to the Bible study. I'm like, well, Mom, why aren't you going to the Bible study? She said, I have to come and make you lunch for you to go to school, graduate school. But so she was pretty faithful unless she had to make my lunch.
Momhood comes first. You could tell that she's a wonderful mother. That's so great. Can I go around and just hear like a couple of your fond memories while you were at school, or some of the traditions that you enjoyed attending St. Joan of Arc? Where'd Shawn go? Shawn!
Hi, Mary, number 6, Beth jumped in, number 7, Theresa, number 8. Yeah, you got the core middle here.
Yeah.
So, you know, as I had a similar first reaction as Theresa, like it was a great grammar school, but and Sharon said the same thing. As you reflected on it, it was an amazing space. Now, there was 8 of us in that school at one time, and in the individual classrooms I was in, I never felt like a Sullivan. You know, I felt like Mary. But what I realized is it resonated some core values that were important to my parents in our education. Creativity, opportunity, and inclusivity. And by that, I mean, from what my cousin Jim just said about a skinny little kid being on the football team to an uncoordinated kid being on the cheerleading team, Ruth Ann O'Brien accepting everybody on the choir and honestly believing that we could all sing. You know, these science fair projects fostered creativity and independence and getting out there, thinking like we were like solving some big world problem, and the teachers were just behind us individually. It was really unique. There's also a standard of excellence. You know, I don't know, does anyone else remember trying to get out of Mrs. Nagawicki's class without memorizing the preamble? I know it today. It was much more rigorous than what my kids have to do for the Constitution. So it was actually extraordinary in what it seeded in us. And I think that, you know, look at the paths that individually we've chosen, and I mean that individually we've chosen, it reflects our, you know, being true to our gifts, God-given gifts, and going for it, you know? So I'm very grateful for St. Joan of Arc.
Anybody else want to pop in on what they felt? Traditions, experiences?
Well,
This is Paul, number 9. Sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say that we happen to have a really small class of only 18 students, which at the time, the norm was around 40 students in the class, you know. And I was one of the more, I had to try more, it was a little more challenging for me academically to, and it's one thing I can name all the teachers I had, but it's hard for me to name like my college teachers, my high school teachers too, but St. Joan of Arc, you know, they all, you remember, especially Nagawicki and Ms. Balch, you know, who would always say stow it to make sure everyone's behaving too. Very, very patient, you know. So, you know, when you have a smaller class, you get more attention, and the teachers are really, really going beyond to help in every way they can, everyone individually. So it was a great experience, and it flew by. But as you think about it, we're very blessed to have our faith and to have our family and to have the parish that we grew up in. That's great. Julie, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mary was talking about how you got, or you were taught that you could do anything, and to have that at a formidable age and that you take it with you the rest of your life, I think it is really impactful. Like, I think about the 8th grade play and how, you know, have no acting talent, but, you know, end up, you know, with a great role and memorizing lines and all this stuff because it's a small enough group and everyone was encouraged to participate, or, you know, could play in every sport under every sport they offered because they needed everyone to play in every sport. Or like Mary said, back, I was a cheerleader in 7th and 8th grade. My kids to this day are like, you were a cheerleader? I'm like, everyone in my school was a cheerleader. What do you mean? Like, you just did it. So it's just and my kids have gone to public school, and it's a really different experience when I look back. And like Theresa said, sometimes you don't even know until you pause and think about it. So thank you, Joellen, for making us all pause and have gratitude to what we were given.
Amen.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Shawn, what were some of your favorite memories of St. Joan of Arc School?
Publishable ones.
How about one?
Well, the whole period was like time in a bottle in the neighborhood. You could go over to like a Steven Spielberg movie over to Central Park, and everybody would be out there on their bikes. And when I'd always go over to the Flynn's house because he was an only child, and they had tons of food in the refrigerator, and then I'd be at McCarthy's or the Flynn's or McDermott's, and it's unrepeatable. It was just a perfect time in history. What was going on in the neighborhood? Everybody had a ton of kids, and it was all revolved around St. Joan of Arc. And,
Let me ask Shawn a question. Some of these great teachers kept you on the rails. So which ones?
well, Nagawicki and Balch were fantastic. They were all great.
No, but they kept you, knowing your spirit, they kept you in.
Hey, I'm not going to put that only on Shawn. I think they kept a lot of us on the rails.
Moving on before we end up our little conversation with the Sullivan family, which has been so great. Beth, I see you. Do you want to say anything?
Sure. Comment on a couple things that we had in the school setting. You know, just one being a small school, my class was quite small. But despite that, we had this amazing science teacher / basketball coach named Ken Kupchik, who came from U of I, and he coached basketball with passion. So our little measly team ended up doing really well. And it was just so fun. Literally the whole school was there for almost every game. And likewise, he inserted the same passion for science in the science fair. And some of my fond memories is going down once with Mary, my 7th grade year, and her 8th grade year, with a group from St. Joan of Arc down to the state science fair in Champaign. And then again with another group of several students that went my 8th grade year, Lisa Doherty and Mary Mills, and, you know, just a bunch of us went down both of those years, the trips down to state. And that was amazing that any of our projects were well enough to be taken down to that level, all because of the support of the community and the teachers at St. Joan of Arc, getting that going young and giving us those opportunities.
That's so awesome. It really is. It's just, and it still is that way today. They have a Science Olympiad team that is doing very well. They had, of course, take the year off for COVID, but they have been extraordinarily successful in placing downstate too. So you'd be happy to hear that, Beth. It's the traditions go on. So before we wrap up, can we just go through real quick and just tell us where you are today, like where are you living, and maybe what your career or what you're doing with where you've been, what you're doing?
I do have to ask one other question. Anybody have an anecdotal story, something cute, funny, something, you know? Okay, Eunice, go ahead.
All right, I can talk, so I'll say, you know, when at Jim, I didn't get to hear your skinny, is he still on? The skinny little kid, oh, he is, on the football team. I remember when I was in eighth grade that, you know, first of all, we would go every Saturday to watch the football game. We were so excited because we had the winningest year they had for while I was there, like, you know, in the junior high, and it was, we won the first game. So you wouldn't have known that we didn't win the games. And it was because Dal Welch, who was a 7th grader in Peter's class, was such an amazing athlete that he was able to take all the other along with him. And the second that I can remember the kindergarten being built and how that was great. And then the gym. And I didn't realize at St. Joan of Arc, everybody played the sport. We basically only did basketball, but everybody was involved. And when I went to high school and people didn't know how to play sports, I didn't get it because they didn't. And then I'm going to just leap forward because I was up at Holy Cross in Deerfield when I was, and by the way, I still play basketball, and people that know how to play basketball had to go to a Catholic school because the public schools didn't have anything. But when all the different schools, when we would play, we played St. Joan of Arc, you had that same spirit of we're all here to make these kids be better and do well. The other anecdotal I'll tell you is that I learned after graduating that Sister Maud, my 4th grade teacher who had a glass eye, who would keep it up whenever we were supposed to be writing that, and she said she could see us. So that's how she kept us in line. We learned afterwards that no, she couldn't.
Cute.
Well, I can remember one story that Dad would tell me all the time, that Marge Lynch had come to him and she's like, we've never had this problem at St. Joan of Arc for a kindergarten kid. Your son's the first one. Kindergarten kids don't ditch school, but he just did this. He walked right out the back door. And, I remember that I would go right out the back door and just go back home.
Oh, Shawn.
My 7th grade history geography teacher learned that it was harder to teach kids in junior high than it was to become the Sharon, you're gonna have to tell me, the Attorney General, Aurelia Paczynski, what was she?
Clerk.
That was her first job out of school, and she was beautiful and she looked young, and we were but she kept us in line and said, I think I'll go into politics instead.
So that's Ori Paczynski. She went on, she taught at St. Joan of Arc. She taught Union Hall, wherever Hall is right now. But and she went on to be the clerk of the circuit court, and now she's been on the appellate court, the Illinois appellate court for years. But she always talks very fondly about St. Joan of Arc, like teaching there, and when she was 20 something, it's cute.
The other thing is when I was born, Sister Agnes was the principal at St. Joan of Arc. So my middle name, mother told her that I was named after her, and she told Mother Agnes out at the Carmelite Monastery I was named after her. But so I was always kind of adopted by her, and I'm still in contact with her. Name is now Sister Kay, but
that's cool. That's great.
I have a funny Sally Nagwicki story I'm remembering in whatever grade, but basically she gave the whole class this lecture about gotta use deodorant. She's teaching all these middle school kids, and I don't know if you remember us Sullivans growing up, but we were kind of late on the puberty thing, so didn't really we hadn't quite hit that stage yet. But obviously the class stunk because she literally said, you guys, you got to take a shower and you got to put on deodorant.
Amen. Oh my goodness.
and don't forget Miss Metzger. She was the 1st grade teacher.
And do we remember who lived in Joellen Madden's house before Dee Dee Maloney?
Yes, we do. I know.
I can't remember. Was it Schmidt?
Scott. Her first name was Scott, Mr. Scott.
Who do we?
Her grandparents lived there.
Right.
Edith and Bill Lyman or William Lyman lived there.
Right, the Lymans.
No,
Right.
Lyman's lived in Maloney's house.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. And then that's the one Joellen lives in.
Right.
So I will tell you that when we were kids and we played basketball on the out in front, Mrs. Lyman would just stare out the window the whole time at us, and we were like, why is she just staring out the window at us? And then if you leap forward to when Dad got to that stage, although it was we moved him to Central Park, he would just stare out the window all the time, looking at the kids that were in the park.
It's a very active street. When Shawn and I moved into the Maloney house, it was such a boy-oriented street. Oh my goodness, we brought 3 ourselves, and there's so many boys, and it's kind of flipped. Now it's kind of flipping back, but it's such a great street to be on, Lawndale. You see all the activity, the park is right there. And I agree, the neighborhood, I call it like Mayberry RFD. Everybody knows everybody. They all care. It's like a village raising a family. Everybody parents each other's kids. And I'm so grateful for that. It's been really cool.
So Joan, I got to tell this story. When Mom and Dad were selling their house, I mean, of course, kicking and screaming, they did not want to move out of that house on Lawndale. But Mom had one requirement. She wanted to make sure that it was sold to somebody who was going to go to St. Joan of Arc, because she felt like it was such a great location, and St. Joan of Arc you know, it was such a great place. She wanted whoever to move in there to have a bunch of kids and to go to St. Joan of Arc. And so I think she actually, because, you know, they gave up earlier buyers and things, and the people, whoever bought the house, I think is a friend of my brother, Jim.
The
And he-
Detlings, lovely family, Detlings. They have 4 children. St. Joan
Yes,
of Arc,
that's cute.
Loyola.
Nice.
Yeah, you'd be very proud of your mom and dad and what they've done for the neighborhood, as you all are. I know you are. And then to have the next generation of family like that
Yeah.
in that beautiful home. It's just so.
And as usual, if there was trouble on Lawndale and there was somebody from Springfield involved, oh, it was less than 3 seconds before the parents on Springfield knew. And Mrs. Sullivan and my aunt were often making sure that we got home safely after whatever it was. So the news traveled fast from Lawndale to Springfield and Avers, I'm sure, as well as Sullivan household on Avers.
Oh, true. Well, I think we should wrap up pretty soon because it is a little bit after 6 o'clock here, and I want to make sure
Hey,
that.
Joellen,
Yes, Paul.
I will say one more thing. I took my mom to mass most of Sundays in the last 3 years of life, and except for the Breedemans and Mrs. Schwartz and Moynihan's, we knew nobody else too. But all of them, oh, Mrs. Sullivan, oh, how you doing? And of course, she didn't recognize any of them too, but every one of them would know her. It was very inspirational.
Well, and you know, she was in our bridge club. They started a ladies bridge club. I mean, they might have had it earlier, but it was one that was started when I was just learning bridge. And so she was part of that. And it was very nice because you partner up and then, you know, we host around the neighborhood, but that was a great way too, to get to know people. And it's an inclusive, wonderful women's club, parish, school, families. Everybody watches out. It's like, if you're going to be sick or have a baby, you want to do it in our neighborhood, because you know, you don't cook for a long time. You might get a lot of chicken, but
Right.
it's such everybody takes care of everybody. And that's the spirit that I find the culture at St. Joan of Arc, the Academy, now that it's called the Academy at St. Joan of Arc, it still persists. It's the spirit of kindness and humility and doing for others. It's just that's what St. Joan of Arc is so good at doing.
You know, you're
Sorry, I
talking
know
about.
you're gonna
Mom and
wrap
Dad
it up.
love you.
Here.
Sorry,
Sharon,
Teresa. I know Mom and Dad love Joellen, especially because she stepped up and was singing at church every day. And there was nothing that my dad loved better than someone who's singing at church every day. But they loved you, and we really all appreciate what you do for St. Joan of Arc. And
Yes.
as one of my,
Here, here.
it's hard to get them to do anything. So we thank you for making us appreciate what we had all those years. And just one final sentence. I think my mom and dad got more back from St. Joan of Arc than they gave, just to be clear.
So nice. Yeah. Well, you guys, thank you. Thank you all for making the effort to come on. And we'll make this little video and publish it for our alums to see. And I'm sure you'll get some calls and emails and texts, because it'll bring back a lot of memories for so many other people too. So thank you very much. Jim, thank you for the idea. Jim Shelley, Brainiac, a wonderful.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Oh, thank you
Thanks,
guys
Joe,
for
man.
joining in. Really, it's brought back some very heartwarming memories, and St. Joan of Arc for a lot of people really is. It's the best part about what we've done is St. Joan of Arc, seeing the people. And Jim will tell you, you know, the camaraderie we now have and Sharon for our class is out of sight, which I am very happy about. So thank you guys for joining. I really, really appreciate it.
So please hold the June 11th, 2022 is going to be the all school reunion. You know, make sure you talk to your classmates and well, you're pretty much the whole family's right here, but but the idea is, of course, we want everybody back. We had a really good attendance in 2016, and it's going to be a really wonderful occasion again for everybody to come back and see the school and just be part of the neighborhood once more. So cheer on. Thank you very much. Go Saints.
Thanks, Joellen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks, Sullivan.
Thanks, Joellen. Thanks,
Beth.
Sharon, for navigating us.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone,
Joellen.
You guys.
Bye, cousin Jim.